Everybody, it's the weekend. It's Sunday, the 21st of May, and nearly to the end of the month. And this is Jeremy out on his own with days and days and days of headwinds coming up. Not much fun for him at all, especially with a broken or ineffective force day. So I hope you're having a good weekend. Not a lot of people watching these days, which is kind of fun in its own right. So it's the weekend. I'm going to waffle. And I'm going to, just before we get into Jeremy, I'm going to talk about two really cool books that not many people know about even. It's sort of funny how that goes. And then this picture board behind me, I've had a few emails and people saying, oh, what's the board? What's the pictures and stuff like that. We're renting a place in Les Sables d'Olonne for the 3 years or something. And we've got a couple of these boards up, and it's just sort of happy snaps from a few of the things that we get involved with. So I'm going to, when this is over, I'll tell you about these books first. Then I'll talk about Jeremy and his weather, which is really horrific. Not storms, just as horrific. And then I'm going to try and get the camera over there, and I'll just run you through and point out what some of them are. Because it's anyway, I've had a few people, and some of those pictures look interesting. So we'll do that. So anyway, the books. Okay, everyone knows Bernard Matessier and Joshua, the whole story. Okay, and there's a little-known book that many don't know about, in my opinion. It's called Sea Vagabonds of the World. This is the American edition. Okay, well, there it is there. And what this is, when I started sailing, I was sailing sort of dinghies and stuff and got into keel boats back in that era, in the, sort of very early 70s. I got a lot of information from Eric and Susan Hiscock in Voyaging Under Sail, and those books at that time were really quite ancient already. But there was some really useful, interesting stuff in it. This one is like one of the last books that Matessier actually wrote, and it's a guide to sea vagabonds. If you're going to go out in your boat and go cruising, there's a lot of really interesting how to do it stuff that he conceived or came up with through all of his years and years of voyaging, the long route and the long way, all that sort of stuff. And it's fascinating. It goes through bits about celestial navigation. I'm just ran about how the planets work. How to recover your anchor without an anchor winch, a bit about sort of interesting tips on knots, how to work out angles. I mean, this is I've been using this since my Navy days, so I was only part, Dad's Army type Navy. But there's little things about how you can work out angles and above the horizon and sideways as well, just using your fingers. It's just full of really crazy cool stuff. And when you realize the guy that's written it has got super amounts of experience doing stuff without any money, just this philosophy of get going and go and do it. And he's sharing that. And as I say, this is one of the last and latest books that he actually wrote. I think most people are familiar with The Long Route and The Long Way. But that's a classic. Even if you've got a modern Beneteau, cruising Beneteau, and you're doing stuff, I guarantee you, if you get Sea Vagabonds of the World, not only will you be interested and fascinated what Bernard Matessier has got to say, you will probably pick up some tips that might be extremely useful one day in bad conditions and so on. Now, this is the piece de resistance that absolutely a lot of people don't know about. It's not from written by Matessier, but what it is a guy who was a very close friend of Matessier for 36 years. Okay, and he wrote Sailing Legends to sort of bring it all together and explain who it is. It's Jean-Michel Barralou. I don't know how you quite pronounce that, right? But this, when I first read this a long time ago, it anchored the whole story of Bernard Matessier and really gave you an in-depth look at who the man was. Now, I'll say something right now that'll probably shock a lot of people, but Bernard Matessier was a classic hypocrite in that, in one sense, he was all about philosophy and, sort of cruise and cool and groovy. I don't want the fame and this, that, and the other. But in the other sense, he wanted the fame because he wanted to sell books and he wanted to get going. So it's a superficial comment on my part to say he's a hypocrite, and I truly respect the guy. It's not a negative, but it's just showing how this book explains his complex nature. And I had hugely more respect for Bernard Matessier when I actually read this book, purely because it explains where his ideas and where his philosophies came from, how it goes right back to his childhood and where he was brought up in Indochina and all the rest of it. It's really quite fascinating. So I would, if you want to get to know the man, read all the books first. Read The Long Way, The Long Route, Sea Vagabonds. In fact, there's a list here of his books, which some people might not know. Sailing to the Reefs is the first one that he wrote, when he talks about the two boats that were both wrecked over a period of time. And you think, oh, the guy's a nut, he doesn't know what he's doing. But it was back in a time when he had no money, where sailing was far less advanced than it is today. And he was really adventuring and doing it on no money. Interesting side note there is he hooked up with James Warham from Warham Catamarans. Those two go hand in hand as well. I've got a lot of respect for that guy. And it's interesting how they interplayed at a certain time in both their lives. So that was his first book, Sailing to the Reefs. Okay. Cape Horn, the logical route. I mean, that's the big deal when he sailed from Tahiti back to France, and then that sort of made him realise he could easily do the Golden Globe. The Long Way, that's his Golden Globe race story, which is a must read, and they're the two that everyone knows about. But these other ones are just as interesting. Tamata and the Alliance was when he decided to basically go and hang out on an island, and do the cool and groovy thing, and following his philosophy of caring for the world and the environment and so on. He was a very early environmentalist like Jacques Cousteau, and in his own way, and so on. So that's quite amazing. And then the other one that I just spoke about, Sea Vagabonds of the World, this one here. So you imagine his best mate. I won't call him his best mate because they had conflict at times. But for instance, this author, Jean Michel, convinced Mutessia to actually start writing, okay, and put his books together, and encouraged him to do it. And, in some ways they spoke about a lot and ideas, and made it quite a success. So it's a very fascinating insight into the guy. So if you want to really get in depth and understand about who Mutessia was, and he was, how do you explain this? He was, he is what he is. That's the way to do it. But this was fantastic. That just was the last of the Mutessia books that I read, and that's the right way to do it. Don't read this book, okay, until you've read the other ones, all right, and then you'll really understand who he is, and quite a guy. Okay, enough of that. There's a lot of Jeremy fans out there waiting to know what's going on, and it's not exciting at all. It's really quite sad for the way to finish the GGR, but that's sailing. That's what you've got to put up with. We're giving him basic weather reports because we don't know where he's going to be and what he's going to do, because he'll be tacking back and forwards. But for now, his distance from the Sable d'Olonne is approximately 770 nautical miles. He's already said, if you followed his tweets, it's going to be the slowest trip he's ever had, and it's all a bit depressing, but he accepts his lot. That's the way it works. So he's not complaining at all. He's just saying, oh, here we go. And yeah, the weather's not kind at all. It's not heavy weather, but you can see here, I'll blow that up just a little bit more. You can just about see all the way to the Sable d'Olonne. He's got a light northerly at the moment. I'm following it on windy as well, and it's basically blowing 13 knots today, dropping down to about 10 knots overnight with this lighter weather coming through. So he's off on Port Tack and going to the east, which is a good thing, because anytime he can make easting, that's heading for Le Sable d'Olonne, but sadly you'll see what's about to happen. He might get a little bit of a slant from behind here, but it's going to drop off a lot. Bearing in mind this graphic might not be totally correct in position, because I've explained all that before. Sometimes the forecasting here is hard to pick when there's light, fluffy bits, a bit disjointed. It's not a consistent pressure gradient, and there's not a lot of weather forecasting stations or data stations logging the progress of the various pressure systems. So, you could get a bit of a push along from that way, but soon, if we just walk this forward, you'll see that it's going to go light. That's tonight. And then when it comes back, you can see from here we go. This is the start of the next nightmare for Jeremy. It's basically coming from the northeast. So that swings through about 30 degrees there. So if he's making east now and he holds on Port Tack, he's going to be sailing down to Portugal. He's going to be coming down here. So he won't do that. I think it's, we've discussed it a bit, and I think it's the best thing to do is keep going north. Because obviously if you keep going north, eventually you can actually slide across the northeasterly and come down. So once this swings to the north, got an easterly component, and it's not quite northeast, but it'll be northeast. He's better off tacking to starboard tack, and possibly even he'll be falling a little bit to the west of north, but that's probably the best of bad options. And then it's going to increase. The northeast is going to increase up to 25 knots, maybe even a bit higher in those yellows. And you'll see then when this is coming, he's going to be tacking out this way somewhere, going away from the Sable d'Olonne. So that's on the 22nd. And then it's still holding in. It's quite strong, relatively speaking. It'll be 25 knots, and that'll give him some, reasonable size seas. There it is there. He'll probably be tacked away by that stage then. He'll be coming out here. So it's not too bad, but it'll still be 2, 3. If it's over here, it's getting up to 4s and stuff. So all in all, not encouraging or comfortable. And he's got to look after the boat. He doesn't want anything else to break. So it is going to be a slow trip. There's no question about that. So you can see here, it's all from the northeast. So this is the 23rd. Even when I scale back, because we don't know exactly where he'll be, but I'd be imagining he's going to be tacking up here. And the good news about that coming in this direction, you can see even on the 23rd, 2 days from now, he's not going to have this stronger stuff. He will have moved away from it. The high pressure system here is generating the airflow. He's on the wrong side of it, effectively. We want that to move, but it's not going to happen in a hurry. So he's going to be in this sort of stuff, trying to keep coming north. He'll still be sailing away from the Sable d'Olonne. So he's got a couple of, after today, you'll probably see him tack during the night or something. He's going to be moving away, continually to move away generally from the Sable d'Olonne. And that goes through, you see nothing's changing. The center of that high is not moving anywhere at all in a hurry. It's just oscillating. And that's the problem. That's what's causing these headwinds. So there's the 24th. We're 3 days away. And all he's got is these northeasterlies. He's going to be up in here struggling north. If he tries to tack, he's going to be going back down again towards Spain. Really unfortunate. Again, it's not bad winds. If you're going the other way, it'd be like trade winds. You'd be loving every bit of it. But there we go, the 25th. It's still the same. He's locked out of the bay, basically. By the 26th, he's going to have to tack back, because now we're talking about 5 days. And in 5 days, even at that rate, well, I'll give you a scale here, because there's no incentive for him to come back tacking the other way. In 5 days, even at 60 miles a day, 6 4 is 24. So 60 miles a day is not much. He's still going to be up here. And if he tacks back, he's just going to be coming down here to Finisterre. So all in all, he hasn't got much going for him there. And even if we keep going, it's unbelievable. There's the center of this high gradient is just sitting there. And it's just getting lighter. So you got light winds. I wouldn't even want to try and guesstimate the time that he's going to get there. So we'll just have to wait and see, and we'll just, all we can do is say, keep at it, Jeremy. Everyone's waiting for you, and we look forward to seeing you. We'll keep giving in forecasts, but as I say, it's not a lot of change. It's like just this sort of gradient. Anyway, that's really about it. So I'm now just going to try and squeeze this through. I've got to pull a few things out here. I don't know whether this is going to work, but a few people have wanted to know. So I'll see if I can make this happen. So, okay, hang on a second. Got to move that. I'll put that over here. I think that might work. Okay, so this is just a Happy Snap board, and I've got to watch what's on the screen here to try and point to it. Okay, that way. This is my bounty boat. You might have heard about all that. This is me. That's Jane when she was a bit younger. This is, that's a cannon there. This is a cannon that we, 17th century bronze cannon that we picked up in Tonga when we were up there. And this is whale swimming in Tonga. We did a lot of whale swimming in Tonga. It's an amazing place. There's a lot of registered agents, there, tour guides that can swim with whales. This one's a big memory. That's part of the 450 sheets of plywood we got on the island to build the cabins and the yacht club and stuff. It all got washed away in the big tsunami. We lost everything on the island. This was Explorer. This was our other Explorer, a Lagoon 450 catamaran that we had setting up the island in Tonga. This is His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince of Tonga, and Joshua and Brownie and so on, Jane and I. They gave us the island there to set up the operation. Oh, that's my little gyrocopter. I flew that little gyrocopter solo around the world. That's yeah. I'm trying to think of other things. Oh, that's the Canon again. I don't know whether you can see that Canon there. What else is fun here? Let's see. In China, oh, that's me as a little boy. See that? Yeah, Fanny. Okay, that's my combi van. That's me with long hair. Ooh, used to surf a lot in those days. I don't know whether you can see that. That's my mum and me. That's me as a baby boy. This is Jane in Antarctica. Can you see that? Jane was a hotel manager and expedition team in Antarctica, driving ribs, going crazy. That's Jane fishing. Jane diving. I don't know whether you can see that. I can't see the screen now. That's what else have we got here? Oh, that's Jane's dad there. Oh, hang on a sec. That's Jane's dad. I can't quite see it. There he is. When he was in the military a long time ago. That's Jane being silly in Fiji. There's Robin and Yannick. There's a Robin, Yannick, Ada, me, and Jane in 2018 edition. Oh, this is a cool one. I don't know whether you can see that. Jane used to drive Zodiacs in Antarctica. That was loading in a snowstorm in Antarctica. There was a Mark V Zodiac, 60 horsepower tiller steered outboard with up to 10 guests on board. That's Jane. This is Jane flying. She was learning to fly at one stage in an ultralight. This is Ada and Robin on Suhaili. That's the first time Ada had been on Suhaili, and I think that was in Falmouth for the prologue. Jane driving the ribs and stuff. That was our other boat, Ice. That's the boat. That's where I met Jane. The 50-foot, 40-ton steel motor sailor. There's Jane patting sharks. That's Jane. I was into gyrocopters for a while. What else have we got here? This is a cool one. Look at this. This is Jane surfing. Long story there. She nearly died that day. I'm serious. That's a long story. This is in a volcano. We used to go up to Tofua, the active volcano, just out from our island in Tonga in Namuka. Jane being a guide on the New Zealand subantarctics, looking after the passengers. This is one of the ships that we spent a lot of time on. This is Spirit of Enderby Heritage Expeditions. I was the expedition leader. Jane was hotel manager. We did some crazy things. This Jane driving. She used to get lost in the Zodiac all the time. Not really, but sometimes. What else we got here? That's diving in Tonga. That's Jane. That's the Canon that we pulled up. Crazy crew. This is one of my favourite shots. I don't know whether we still got internet. Yes. This is one of my favourite shots. That was on Suhaili just after we'd set the start gun going. That's Robin's Canon. Robin's got his own Canon, which is really impressive, and I'm extremely jealous with Yannick and some of the team there then. And that's Jessica Watson when we were refitting the boat, when Jessica was refitting. And that's probably enough. So anyway, all good. So there you go. I've answered the question to a few people who are wondering about the pictures. We'll see you again in a couple of days. Thanks a lot. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.